one of the biggest investing mistakes that retirees make is often behavioral. It's panicking and selling based on emotion when the market does what the market does in its temporary downturns. But there's another mistake that happens long before that for a lot of people. And most retirees don't even realize they're making it because it doesn't seem like a mistake. But here's what that is: they get too conservative too early. And that simple move that makes sense on the surface quietly costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars over their retirement. So today, I want to show you why playing it safe by conventional terms can actually be a risky move to make and what to do instead. So here's what happens. You spend 30 to 40 years investing for growth. You've got stocks, you've got a good diversified portfolio, and most likely you're not looking at it all that often over your working career. So you ride out the ups and downs, and you just accept the market for what it is. Then you retire, and suddenly common knowledge tells you, hey, it's time to protect what you've built. You got to get it all onto the sidelines, get conservative, move into bonds and cash, and protect that principal at all costs. So you've probably had these thoughts yourself, and on the surface it sounds really smart because you don't want to lose money, right? I mean, that's feels like the right thing to do. But here's the problem: if all you do is preserve principal, you're actually losing money every single year. So let's say you retire with $1 million, and 20 years later you've still got $1 million. Your account balance is the same, but $1 million today is a lot different than $1 million in 20 years. That $1 million doesn't buy what it used to, because what costs $50,000 today will cost $67,000 in 10 years, and it'll cost $90,000 in 20 years. So your balance stayed the same, but your purchasing power, that's what got cut in half in this situation. That's the hidden cost of playing it safe. So this requires a shift of what your actual goal is. The goal in retirement is not necessarily to keep your account balance from dropping or to even preserve your principal. The goal is to make sure your money can still buy what it needs or what you need 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and even 30 years from now. So the goal is not the preservation of principal, but the preservation of purchasing power. So the only way to do that is by having growth on your money. So not reckless growth, not gambling, not speculating, but real disciplined long-term growth through prudent ownership of businesses, equities. If you're retiring at 65, you might need that money to last until you're 95 years old. That's 30 years. And you can't afford to be 100% conservative for 30 years. Inflation will be a major problem in that situation. So how do you protect yourself? Because the reality is the markets do go through periods of turbulence, sometimes really uncomfortable periods of turbulence. So how do you protect yourself from that and inflation at the same time? And here's what I'll give you. You split your portfolio into two jobs. The first job is your income reserve. This is your safety net. Typically, what we talk about at Five Stone is oftentimes around 5 years of the income you need from your portfolio on top of any Social Security or any other income sources you have. That money goes into safe, stable investments as an income reserve. So this might be short-term bonds or money markets or treasuries or cash to a certain extent. But this is the money that you're going to spend when the market is down, when the market's not cooperating. So when you spend that, instead of spending your growth money, you're not forced to sell shares when the market is down, because that is the opposite of good investing, isn't it? So that's the first job. The first job of your portfolio is to create an income reserve. Think of it like an emergency fund for your income. Now, job number 2 is the growth portfolio. Everything else outside your income reserve stays invested in equities. So this is diversified. This is US stocks, international stocks, small cap, large cap, diversified across the market. So you have a good diversified portfolio. This is the money that fights inflation. This is what grows over time so your purchasing power can keep up and exceed inflation over the long term. The income reserve protects you from the short-term crashes, and the equity portfolio protects you from long-term inflation. Both jobs matter, and you need both. So, what does this look like in real numbers? Let's just say that Social Security and other income cover the cost of most of your expenses, but you need an extra $50,000 a year from your portfolio. Well, with a 5-year income reserve, that's $250,000 in safe investments. So cash, short-term bonds, things that won't necessarily drop when the stock market does. And if you have $1 million total, that leaves $750,000 or 75% of your portfolio still invested for growth. So that might feel aggressive, but remember, you're not touching that money when the market's down. Your income reserve is what covers you in the down markets. The growth portfolio is there to make sure that in 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years, you can still afford the retirement you planned for. So how does this fit into the whole plan? A lot of people make their allocation decision, their stocks and bonds, just based on rules of thumb. But this applies actual rhyme and reason to how your money is invested, an investment strategy that you can articulate. So if you're more comfortable with a 6-year income reserve or a 7-year or a 3-year, that's how you start to build out your overall allocation. Reacting to market crashes is absolutely one of the biggest mistakes that retirees make. And they're largely forced to do that because they don't have a plan that they can articulate for when the inevitable happens and markets do go down. But the mistake that costs people more, and they never know it, is getting too conservative too soon in their retirement and watching inflation slowly eat away at everything they've built. So your goal isn't to preserve your principal. Your goal is to preserve your purchasing power. And that means you still need growth, even in retirement. You are an investor now, and you'll be an investor when you're 90. So the income reserve is for safety. The equities are for growth. That's how you protect what really matters and avoid having to make panic decisions when the market doesn't cooperate. If you want to talk through how this applies to your situation, or how much you should keep in your income reserve, or even what to do with the rest, that's exactly what we help people figure out. You can reach out to us. The link is in the comments to connect. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.